Hello, everybody. Welcome to the VLOGAN, a video blog for the disability community, people with disabilities, and those who love them. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking with a member of the disability community, Mitch Staugler, but we're doing it here in my office, which is different. Normally, the individual is at their home or their office, and we're having a Zoom meeting. Today, Mitch is in my office. So I wish that I could say it's a studio. It is not. It is a conference room, and we've got lamps with the shades off over here. So there is nothing high tech about this. But I hope that that doesn't take away from what we're going to talk about. So, Mitch, welcome to the Vlogan.
Thanks for having me, Logan.
So Mitch and I know each other from the soccer community. Our sons play on the same soccer team. And through that connection, I learned that Mitch is involved in the disability community. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mitch. Mitch, give us an elevator speech of how you're involved in the disability community.
So, first of all, thank you for having me. Thanks for what you do in this community. I guess to give you an idea of what I do, this is about being able to celebrate the disability community. And I'm actually publishing a magazine called Uniquely You Columbus for Central Ohio. So, we get to celebrate the individual stories around the disability community and connect the families with different resources and different businesses around the community.
Awesome. So tell us about Uniquely You. So when you told me about it, I had never heard of it. And you said, well, there's probably a good reason because it's not in Central Ohio.
Yeah.
What's Uniquely You? You told me it's a magazine?
Yeah, so Uniquely You is a monthly print and digital magazine that's tailored specifically to the disability and the special needs community. So this is a publication that families and businesses will receive that includes stories from around the community, stories of talent and perseverance and triumph and connection. And really, it's intended to encompass a local community, and this is Central Ohio in this case.
So I have one in front of me, and you're looking at it. This is not Columbus, Ohio. What's this one?
So that magazine's actually published in Akron, Canton, which was one of the first uniquely used that's popped up around the country. But now there are actually 9 uniquely used that have been published in different areas of the United States.
Wow. So Uniquely You, a magazine. You can see right on the cover. There's a guy who looks like a baseball player. Uniquely You, it looks to me like a 614 kind of magazine. Is that kind of what it is with some unique stories and then really also kind of a guide to opportunities and vendors perhaps in the community?
Yeah, so it's similar to a 614 magazine in the sense that it's specifically for a certain geography, which is Central Ohio in this case. And the differences would be that this content is all tailored specifically to the disability and special needs community. So this is intended to be read by families and businesses that work within this space because there are topics and content that they care about and that they want to learn more about.
Awesome. And so you're bringing it to Central Ohio. How did you become involved in Uniquely You? Where did you learn about it? What made you say, okay, I mean, you quit your other job, if I understand, and said, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, first of all, I'll say that my wife is an absolute angel. She has been a special needs preschool teacher and an intervention specialist, to be specific, at Southwestern City Schools for almost 15 years. So she spends her day every day in the classroom with a blended classroom model with half of the children have special needs and most of them have IEPs, and half of the class is also peers where their parents elect them into the program, and she pours everything she has into those kids. So she's a big part of the inspiration for this. And then also our son, Max, when he was 2 years old, he developed a kidney disease. We're not exactly sure why, but it turns out his kidneys actually shut down, and it was really a scary moment for us, a scary few months, in fact, because he spent almost 2 months straight at Nationwide Children's Hospital. Max had to be on dialysis for about a year at home with us. He underwent what's called peritoneal dialysis and eventually received a kidney transplant. He's doing great. He just turned 13 years old.
Well, I know that he's a dynamo on the soccer field and doesn't play like any person with any
Yeah.
kind of medical condition.
You would never know from Max's perspective that he had some sort of major surgery like that when he was a
Yeah.
kid.
He's a
But
tough dude.
he is, and we're grateful not only for the resources that we have here around Columbus, but we're also grateful for some of the perspective that it's shaped, because that's what really led me to this project. This was a good friend of mine who works kind of in the corporate office for the publishing company that we represent through Uniquely You. And he brought this to my attention, and I just absolutely love the idea. Not only because of what my wife Rachel does and some of the things that Max has gone through and we've gone through as a family, but also just recognizing the need for this in the community. And it's been very validating talking to other families, knowing that there's something coming that will provide resources for them.
When I looked at the magazine, both hard copy and on the digital, what I saw was not only the stories, but also the amount of information there from, people who are providing services to events, all of that sort of in one place, which I know that lots of information is out there. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just finding it. And so I thought that that was a really neat feature of Uniquely You.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, what I've found in talking with other businesses and organizations and nonprofits around Columbus throughout this ramp up process, because it's really about a 6-month process to go from start to actually having our first issue published, which is expected to be late summer. I would say probably early August would be our timeline to get the first issue out to families and businesses. And the thing that's been fascinating is there's a lot of good communication. There are a lot of really great organizations doing great work for the disability community here in Columbus, but a lot of the communication can be fairly siloed. And what we think is this is an awesome opportunity to be able to accumulate not only some of the different events and sensory-friendly activities that families are looking for, but also give them an opportunity for their young children or their adult children to share their stories and to be able to share some of their perspective with the rest of the community and draw connections to the rest of the businesses and organizations that have helped them lead an improved quality of life or help them reach their next milestone in life.
So your background is business
Yes.
and financial services, and a magazine has a business, but it also has the literature part of it.
Yeah.
So, I know that you and I have talked about, hey, here are people that might be able to support the business. So it's kind of unique when you call on people. Are you somebody that we can feature? Or are you a potential advertiser? And then I guess there's kind of a combination of both, right?
Yeah.
The advertisers are also the people that are going to provide services.
Yeah.
But what about the stories? Where do the stories come from? Are you writing them? Do you have reporters? How does that look?
Yeah, so the stories are actually being written by other members of the community here in Columbus. So these are people that have heard about the project or I've interacted with personally that have a passion for serving this community, and helping to share these stories is something that intrigues them and helps them feel inspired. So I'm actually, whether it be photography or whether it be writing or contributors, this is all developed organically through the community and people that I meet every day.
I'm guessing that you've got a ton of stories that you could do. So I would think that probably you've got ideas for stories for probably 5 years worth of magazines. That's just a matter of getting to.
Yeah, it's been very fascinating and humbling to hear stories from the community directly. I'm not going to share specifics around who will be a part of the first few issues because that's something we'll announce over the next few months.
Sure.
But we are developing the content for these first several issues, and we want families to be able to chime in and raise their hand if there are others that they think would be willing to share and people that we think would be willing to read this magazine. So it's also worth mentioning that the families and businesses that are receiving this, they're getting the magazine for free.
Okay.
So there's nothing to pay to actually receive it, as long as somebody opts in to receive the magazine, which I think you'll share a QR code to actually sign up. This is something that we'll send directly to their home in print form, but at the same time, we'll send a digital version of that via email.
Cool. So tell me about the publication dates. Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? What's it look like?
It's a monthly magazine, so
Okay.
this is all brand new content every
Awesome.
month. There will be parts of the magazine that are static month to month, like resources, for example. We'll list base layer foundational resources that can be found here in Central Ohio. Everything from Social Security and Medicaid to organizations like the Autism Society of Central Ohio, Elevated, the county resources through the boards of DD and Family and Children First Councils. These are base layer organizations that we think families deserve to find in one spot, and they'll be a part of every single publication each month.
Awesome. So it's interesting. When you said static, I had this flashback to like senior year English and trying to figure out what does static mean versus dynamic, because I think that was something. And so static means the same, dynamic means changing. So there'll be parts of the magazine that are kind of static. Oh, an events page, perhaps.
Yeah.
Now the events will change, but the events page will always be in there. Is
Yeah,
that kind of the
exactly.
thing? Okay.
Yeah, so each issue would feature a few new stories each month, and then there will be several parts of the magazine that are also meant to be in place for families to find them consistently, because we want the publication to be found by families, whether it be in their own mailbox or whether it be something that they find in a waiting area at the Franklin County Board of DD. We want them to be able to find this resource, learn more about it, learn more about the stories from their community and the other businesses and resources that are helping to serve their families.
That's awesome. So and that's the idea too. I loved being able to pick up the magazine. That's why I said that the 614 is it feels like that. There's weight to it. It's thick. It's not like the Newsweek that's just kind of flimsy. It also feels great to just hold and read something. I get my paper digitally. I don't go to the barber anymore, as you can see, so I don't get to hold magazines very much. So I'm very rarely in a waiting room.
It's interesting you say that, because I was with an organization here recently that works in remote support for adults with disabilities, and that's one thing that they mentioned, was that they like that there's something tangible that somebody can hold in their hands. And I think, we might take for granted sometimes in this technological society, we might take for granted that everybody has access to internet and social media, but that's not necessarily the case. Access and ability are different across the scope. So having something tangible where somebody can go through and see somebody that they know or recognize a business that they use, that's something that we think is real. And at the same time, finding something in your mailbox that you're excited to get is something that's fun to think about too.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember Boys Life when I was a kid growing up. I get Boys Life, and I was always interested in what was going to happen, and I think that's really cool. And I always like when I see magazines similar to yours that are free to the public. In fact, whenever I go to on a vacation, that's one of the things that I always do is pick up one of those just to see the local flavor and to have that for the disability community and be featured as this is locally what's happening here is just awesome.
And I think that's also what's interesting for the business community, is as I'm out in discussions, kind of acquiring partners to help make this all possible so that families can continue to receive it, that's what the businesses are saying, is that this is very interesting to them because there have been few opportunities for them to reach this audience in this way. Mm-hmm. So having a publication in the community that's about the community, and having a publication that reaches this audience that we know wants to receive it. We know they want the resources. They want to hear about other people in the community, the things that they've been able to accomplish and triumph. These are the stories people want to hear, and these are the businesses that I'm meeting. It's not that every single business is a good fit for the publication, but at the same time, most of them haven't done a whole lot of marketing because they're very specialized businesses, but reaching this audience is something that I found can be just a great conversation the marketing and business development side of me really is fascinated by the project.
Yeah, I mean, so much of the information that's distributed in the disability community is word of mouth, right? Somebody hears about me when they're at the Special Olympics event or they're at a PTA event. And so to have a place where, okay, this is a place where lots of that stuff is, I think is really cool.
Yes, absolutely. And really, when you think about the purpose of the magazine, again, we're here to celebrate this community. These are individuals, in most cases, they haven't been celebrated a whole lot in their life. And I could share stories about, there's a girl in Indianapolis that she was on the cover of this magazine. The magazine actually started in Indianapolis. It was the mother of a child with autism who said, I think this community would love something like this. And she was right. And it's grown from there. But there's a girl in Indianapolis that was on the cover who sleeps with her magazine. She feels an immense sense of pride that she was able to be on the cover of the magazine. There's another individual that's up in Akron, Canton, who had been asked to autograph the magazine.
That's awesome.
For being on the cover. So
Yeah.
these are very unique and cool opportunities to be able to celebrate this population where most of their lives they've either been shuffled to the side of the room, the back of the room, and we're just completely flipping that idea on its head.
I love it. That's great. Well, I think that might be a good spot to end on, Mitch. Thank you so much for coming into the office for this kind of unique situation in a studio that's not really a studio. Love this idea, and I'm going to get on the mailing list and look forward to when it comes out, and we'll be sure to put it all over our social channels when it comes out for publication and then also the digital publication.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Logan.
Thank you for coming in. I hope you enjoyed this episode of VLOGAN. Please like, share, and subscribe so you can stay up to date with some of the latest news in the disability community.